Hello there, and welcome to the Topic Corner of Culture podcast with your host, me, Seph-Sword 57. This is a podcast where I will talk about a bunch of different things that I am interested in, like Japanese culture, Japanese video game design, Japanese history, Japanese pop culture, Japanese artistry, Japanese martial arts, and a bunch of different things. But for this podcast, I thought it would be a good idea to briefly go over my past and what I've been doing my life up to the point of becoming a content creator here on the internet. I have been going over this information before in another video and on streams and such, so I will just go over it briefly. In 1986, I was born in Sweden, and I don't remember much from my childhood. I was mostly just a typical child, at least up until the point of age 5, when I got a Sega Mega Drive from my mom and a copy of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, this was in 1991, the same year as Sonic the Hedgehog came out, so I was very excited to finally have my own video game system. Before then, I had tried the Sega Master System, which is a very sugoi system, at my cousin's place and such. And also I had played some kind of Pong machines and had briefly interacted with the Nintendo thing, and I thought it was really boring as a child, so I never played much of it. And also all Nintendo fans when I was a child were really obnoxious and a bunch of nerds, so I didn't really like any of them. So I did only briefly came in contact with Nintendo, but the little I played, I already knew that it was, even as a child, I knew those games were bad. And when I played Sonic the Hedgehog, that truth just became even more profound. As that's when I realized, wow, this is what true video games are all about. This is how you do them. And since then, that was my first proper introduction, I would say, to Japanese culture. But it wouldn't be too long until I started watching some anime as a child. Now, back then, there was no option to get the Japanese dub, or the Japanese voice acting, the original one, which you should watch. The only way for me to watch anything, I didn't know any better back then, but I watched the Swedish translation and voice acting of that, which were very bad, but I didn't know any better back then. I was only 5 years old after all. So I'm sure you won't hold it against me too much. I did play a lot of other games after that as well. But the big one was Final Fantasy VII in 1997. Now, before that I had saved up a lot of money because I wanted to buy a Sega Saturn. But a Sega Saturn was very, very expensive. And for just half, I was only able to get enough money, well, for half of the price of one. Luckily enough, the PlayStation had came out, and I was very interested in that as well. So I decided that, well, I have all this money, so I should buy something. So I bought a PlayStation and a couple of games. Jumping Flash was one of them, and Resident Evil 1 was also one of them. Although I couldn't really get through Resident Evil 1 because it was very scary. So I had some friends come over and help me. You helped me go through that game. My uncle was also there to play the game with me when it got very scary. But yes, that was my introduction to the PlayStation. And I should mention that the anime that I watched as a child were Ginga Nagaboshi Gin, also known as Silver Fang in the West. And I also watched Hokuto no Ken, also known as Fist of the North Star in the West. And Sailor Moon was also one of them. This was early 90s. So I didn't know. I knew that they were different, but I didn't know that they were from Japan specifically. I didn't really put that together. It wasn't until later that I was, so they're from Japan. Okay, I understand. But my appreciation for Japanese culture and the country of Japan had not blossomed yet. It was still at a very lower level. What I did understand though was that I enjoyed those games and shows a lot more than I did any of the Western ones. I could never watch any kind of Western cartoon or things like that. They were very boring to me. So Final Fantasy VII came out, the best game ever made. Of course, it was amazing, and that was my introduction to the JRPG genre, a genre we all hold very dear. So that was interesting. That was that was a new discovery for me, and I was blown away with how amazing this genre was, and I had to play more games like it. Me and my friend Joachim, who also got introduced to Final Fantasy VII and was very hooked on JRPGs as well, we started going around and buying games. Games like Suikoden, and games like Beyond the Beyond, Persona 1, and later on Xenogears, and other games. We got a hold of a lot of PlayStation JRPGs that we liked. Breath of Fire 3. And later 4 as well. More games came out later on. But at the time, that was still 97, 98, around there. And some games we couldn't really get a hold of because some of them were not released where we live. For example, Xenogears was never released here. And the same... I still don't understand why they weren't, because Xenogears is amazing, and you should all play it if you haven't. I'm sure back then maybe you couldn't get a hold of it. If that is the case, that is understandable. But now you can get it for you should play it. But yes, JRPGs was what I was 100% focused on that. And then, about around the same time when I was still playing JRPGs, around the age of 12, me and Joachim enrolled in a karate school, a karate dojo that we started training at for a while. And that was when I started to appreciate Japanese martial arts as well. This was very exciting. Another thing from Japan that is amazing and much better than anything I've seen in the West. Yes, I was at the time, even though I was young, I was around 12 years old. Even I understood that this is something special. These are actually really good, and the fact that a lot of people here in the West have not realized it yet was very strange to me. But they hadn't really come that far yet. I was just amazed that, wow, yes, this is Japanese as well. I didn't put it together that it was all Japanese culture and Japanese media that was this amazing, and I was just interested in it. Oh wow, they're from the same country. Interesting. But it wasn't until I was 14 years old I was able to. Well, at the time, me and Joachim had switched to another school, more of a where they do a lot more studying and stuff. Joachim was studying a lot back then. He was pretty much he had started playing less JRPGs and was studying a lot more. We were 14 years old, so and we've been in the same class ever since we were 7 years old. In Sweden, you start first grade at 7. And we've been through 7 grades together. All the way up to that point. And then he switched. And for a couple of months, it was very lonely. I was stayed mostly by myself. I didn't really have any friends. I was kind of left on the side. I wasn't very popular, but I wasn't teased or exposed to any kind of harassment or anything like that. No, everyone just they talked to me sometimes during class, but I wasn't very close to many of them. So I spent most of my time after school doing my homework. I usually did homework in the school library. That way I could finish my homework, so I could just go home and play JRPGs. That's usually how I do it. And you can also get help from the teachers that way. There is a librarian there, and the room next door to the library where the teachers lounge. So you could actually go there and talk to teachers that you wanted if you wanted any help with anything. Well, there was a time when I went there. I finished my schoolwork, and I noticed something interesting in the school library. There were books stacked up on the shelf next to me, and I never seen these books before. Oh, I can show you what they look like. They look like this. I've never seen these before, and another weird thing about them was that when I turned to the front of it, I noticed. Oh wait, this is the back side of the. And even though it's in Swedish right here, you can tell it tells you that you don't read it from this side. So yes, this is Keroro. This is a really funny manga. Anyway, I noticed not this one specifically, not Keroro, but I noticed. I did notice another type of manga that would become my favorite, and still is my favorite to this day, and one of the best mangas ever made. I would say objectively it is the best one, I would say, but there are some that come really, really close, and that is Naruto. Now, I personally don't have any of those copies anymore. But it was volume 5 of Naruto specifically that I picked up, and I just started going through it like this. Oh, this is interesting. It looked a lot like, well, it looked like let's see here. What's a good one here? There should be one here that I can show. Yes, this could be a good page right here. So, as you can see here, it looked a lot like those JRPGs that I played during my childhood and early teens, and was still playing. This was had a similar art style, and it looked like those animations I watched as a child as well. And then I realized, oh, this is also Japanese. Then this has to be Japanese as well. And I started reading the 5th volume of Naruto, and I was showing all kinds of emotion there in the library. I was laughing, I was getting amazed, and I was getting emotional. I had all range of emotions going, just going throughout my body. It was very, very exciting. And also I got to read. I started reading more, and before I knew it, I read through all the 5 volumes that they had. They didn't have any more than that. Also, the librarian was very nice. She got me some tea and some cookies I could snack on while I was enjoying myself. I guess usually I went there to study. So she said that it was nice to see me enjoy something and having fun, rather than just studying all the time. So that was nice. And she let me, since you can borrow books from the library, usually only during school time, and you keep it in your locker. She would still let me take home some manga if I wanted. They had 20 volumes of Dragon Ball. They just got in there, so I took them home, and I read Dragon Ball when I got home. That was the only thing I did. I went home, had my dinner, and immediately started reading Dragon Ball. From the first volume. And also amazing. So that's when I discovered manga. I had never read manga before then, and I was very excited. And that's when I started getting back into anime again, because I knew, wow, if I'm enjoying this just as much, I better watch the animated ones. And then I realized that they were called anime, and I started watching. Now at the time, now we're getting to a point where I haven't really talked about before that much, but we're reaching a time. I was 14, around 15 at this point. I had been enjoying manga for quite a bit, and I wanted to. I could only find pictures and specific clips on the internet about different and GIFs on the internet from different anime, but I couldn't really find much a way to watch them. And I tried looking where I can buy some anime, but you couldn't find anything. It was very hard to find anything that you could buy. And remember, this was the early 2000s, so there were DVDs, but they were still new, and I didn't have a DVD player. Aside from the PlayStation 2, of course. But I was very confused what to do, and here's another thing that I'm sure you won't hold it against me, but the only way for me to enjoy anime back then was to download it on the computer and watch it that way. I am ashamed of this. I feel great remorse for what I've done to Japan and the creators that I stole their content from. And I have paid them back. I have sent them money afterwards. Once I got a job years later, I paid them off as much as I would, and then some extra, because I downloaded them, and you can't do that. So yes, that's what I did. Now that is something you should not do. You should not steal from Japanese people. So Yes, that was something I didn't understand, that there was something you had to pay for. You could just download it on the computer. What's the problem? If I can download it, that means there's no issues, right? Is what I thought. Um, but now I know better. So let's move on from that. But yes, I enjoyed a lot of anime. I watched a lot. Of course, Naruto. One Piece was very interesting. They were all in very bad quality. I remember some of the translations were awful as well. I watched One Piece and it had those yellow subtitles in English, and it said, I remember this specifically. This I still remember this. I was watching the where was it in? It was still in the beginning of One Piece. It was pretty early. I would say it was around well maybe in maybe 80 episodes in or something like that. Uh, but uh, I remember that they wrote the names of the characters wrong. For example, Luffy was called Roof, as in Roof. I remember that specifically, and I knew it was wrong immediately because I could hear them say Luffy in the anime. So that was also a very strange one. Things like that is what you encounter early on the internet when you haven't when these kinds of things were new. Sharing files with people online was new. Fan translations was completely new as well. So there was a lot of that. And well, I watched a lot of anime that way. And sooner they started to become available. DVD collections with anime was becoming more and more normal, and I was able to buy a lot of stuff. But there was still some that could not be accessible in an easy way, which is why it's so nice these days that we have streaming services with all the episodes available for a lot of at least a lot of older shows. We have everything available for us now, which is really nice. So you are lucky, for those of you who got into anime in the mid 2010s. You are very lucky. Being an anime fan back in the day was very hard. That when it comes to that specific thing. Now I still wasn't. At this point, I realize, wow, Japanese culture is amazing. Uh, this is what I truly identify with. I started reading a lot of history on Japanese culture and started studying the language seriously. And at this point, I knew, wow, this is somewhere I want to visit. This is a place I want to go to and meet the people and such. Amazing country. I did went there in 2016, as most of you know, probably. So this was, but this was where it started. This is when Sephiroth Sword 57 was born, specifically. This at this point, this is when that happened. So, what happened next? Well, I became way more open in school life. I become to be way more forward in my interests and such with my other classmates. I remember I didn't know any of them that well at the time, but now I had more confidence. Through Japanese culture, it gave me more confidence, and I started talking to them about Japanese history and martial arts, specifically martial arts they were very interested in. And by they, I mean my group of friends that I got. And they were very nice and respectful people. I never had any bad people in school life. I've never experienced anything bad. We were all really, we didn't hang out anything after school, but during school time, we were talking a lot, and they enjoyed my company, and specifically, they were very interested in what I had to say about Japanese culture and anime and such. Now, these guys were typically very. They usually didn't play a lot of games unless they were sports games, and they typically just did a lot of sports. And you would, yes, so these were jocks. These guys that I hung out with is what the archetype of person, which I also fit into, since I did a lot of martial arts. So we were all very we were physically active people, and martial arts they were very interested in, and they were very impressed with my knowledge and all the moves and stuff. Now, of course, we didn't have any martial art classes or anything in school, which was very baka. They should have included that in the school's curriculum, I think. And it should be, that is something they should include in every school all over the world, to have Japanese martial arts. That would be so much better. But anyway, so we did hang out a lot. They did help me out. A couple of times they wanted me to have a girlfriend, so they told me to go and ask girls out. And while I appreciated what they were trying to do for me, I wasn't very interested in Western females. I personally I told them that no, I'm going to go to Japan and get a girlfriend there. Sometime. So I'm not very interested in that at the moment. And they understood. They thought, well, that's fine. But they were still trying to get me. Probably I think they just wanted me to have a girlfriend as well. So a couple of them had girlfriends as well there, who were from different schools. So they probably wanted something similar for me as well. So. That's it. I haven't talked to them that much. I've met them a few times after school, and they're all very successful in their own ways. Some of them went on to do sports, although only one of them really do sports full time right now. Well, there's. They're very nice people, but we didn't really stay friends after school. We just we had a good time during school, and then we went separate ways, pretty much all of us, and that's just how it is. Sometimes you have very close friends, and sometimes you have acquaintances you get along with well in school, and those are typically not friends you get very close with, but you enjoy their company, and that's pretty much it. That's what happens in life. And for those of you who are still young, you might have not experienced that yet, but that is something you will have to get used to. Not everyone can be close friends and be someone you hang out with all the time. But anyway, that was my school life, and it continued on similarly afterwards. Until I was 18 years old. Now, at this point, I already knew what I wanted to do when I was 17. Or at least, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But I knew from when I talked to all of my classmates that I was I liked to talk about Japanese culture and spread the awareness of Japanese culture and how they could improve your everyday life. And I realized that was the start of me realizing that is what I want to do with my life. I didn't fully knew what to do with it or how I would even achieve that such a thing. So what I did is that instead I got a forklift certificate Yes, I am forklift certified, and I got a forklift license so that I could drive a forklift at a job. And I got it because of, well, my appreciation. I got the appreciation for it from playing Shenmue on the Dreamcast back in the day. As some of you know, Dio Hazuki drives a forklift there as a mini game, and it's a really fun one. And that's what inspired me to do that job, or to achieve that and get a job in that field. It was very easy. I got it, and I got a job almost immediately out of school. Now, this wasn't my dream job, but it was something that I enjoyed to do. It is an enjoyable job. It is what I still do to this day, by the way. I work half time as a forklift driver, and half time I do YouTube right now. They don't need people at full time anymore. They have replaced a lot of things there with machines and robots to do a lot of the heavy lifting there. So they don't need as many forklift drivers anymore. Now, I do know a lot of people in that field, so they let me have a 50% job there. So I work 50% as a forklift driver right now. But yes, that's been going on for many years. It's getting close to 20 years now. As some of you know, I am going to be turning 38 years old, which means it's been 20 years since it's been 20 years since I started working, and 20 years as an adult. Time sure flies. But anyway, when did I start getting into YouTube? Now, this was 2004 when I got the job, and that's still 10 years away. I worked for 10 years. I watched a lot of anime, read a lot of manga, and more importantly, studied Japanese culture and Japanese martial arts, all during my free time. Until I became, I passed a lot of the tests on the Japanese proficiency test, the Japanese language proficiency test. I've passed N1 level. So I am just as good in Japanese as I am as a Japanese person would be, an average Japanese person. And yes, I am. At the time, I learned a lot, and that's when I thought, should I just do this my whole life? Isn't there anything else I want to do other than forklift driving? And I have a lot of knowledge in this in Japanese. I am objectively more knowledgeable and better in that field than I am with forklift driving. There isn't really much to that. It's a very easy, it's a very, very easy profession, I would say. But Japanese culture, wow, how can I spread the awareness of Japanese culture? Well, it didn't dawn on me immediately, but when I made my first video on YouTube, which I did for fun, by the way, my Chrono Trigger video that is up on the channel, the very first video on this channel that you will find, that's, of course, that video it has a lot of jokes in it. That's more of a little, well, it has a lot of truths, like how Chrono Trigger is one of the best games ever made, and how all the characters are really cool. I did put in a lot of jokes in there, and most of them were inspired by content creators such as James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, which I did watch a lot during the mid to late 2000s, and I thought was really funny until I realized that he was a Nintendo fan, which was very disappointing to me, because I thought he did videos making fun of Nintendo games. That was his thing. He made fun of Nintendo games and talked about how bad they were. And then I slowly started to see how he talked about how some games were good on Nintendo, and that's when I got worried. And yes, I lost interest in his videos, but his influence on video and content creation was still something that I appreciated, and it was something that I did. I wanted to try and do that as well, so that's why I made the Chrono Trigger video. I can show my appreciation for this masterpiece while also making some jokes, and that includes, by the way, saying that Chrono Cross is a bad game. Which it's not. It's amazing. Chrono Cross is an amazing sequel to Chrono Trigger that you should play, which I go over in the Chrono Trigger Chrono Trigger re-review that I did, which you should watch as that's more of a real review. While the old one was more of it had some jokes in it and some stuff like that were just meant to be funny. Now, I did make a few more videos, as some of you know. Sonic the Hedgehog I made, which has less jokes in it, and I just talk more about how cool the game is. And some other videos that still haven't been recovered. They are old ones that are, at this point in time, lost media. So, but who knows? I might be able to find one of them, because I did find... There's an old hard drive at my mom's place from my old computer that I would like to go over and see what kind of content is still on there. It is still recoverable, even though it's damaged. That was the reason why I got rid of that laptop, because it was damaged, so I couldn't recover most of the files. But I'll see what I can do. If I can get some more videos out from that era, that would be really, really fun. Now, what else? Well, I guess we can talk about what happened afterwards. Well, I played a game. This was my second video or third video on the channel, actually. I did a Final Fantasy VII Remake reaction video as well. Which was amazing. Amazing game, Final Fantasy VII Remake. You should play it. And you should also play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, coming out very soon. But anyway, I played a game that I was very excited to play, because so many people talked about how amazing it is, and it is a brand new type of experience. And it was it started... Well, it started a craze in the video game industry, I would say. And it was from a company that I was familiar with from the PlayStation 1. They made some really fun games that I enjoyed, so I was excited to play it. And that game was Dark Souls. You can see where I'm going here. Yes, I played Dark Souls and I realized how awful the game was. And what a huge disappointment it was for me to see FromSoft go down that path of disrespecting Japanese culture and make bad games. So I played the game and I knew immediately I have to talk about this. I have to make a video on this and talk about it, because this is disgusting. The fact that someone made this game. I need to do this in a more objective manner, with no personal opinion attached, so that people can get a non-biased view on the game, which a lot of people had at the time. They were just amazed by it because a bunch of Westerners played it, who only play Western games, and Dark Souls plays like a Western game, so they enjoyed it. So I had to talk about it. And I got a lot of dislikes. I remember if you go to that video now, the dislikes are still there. It's about 50% dislikes on that video. But also, I got a lot of views on that video. And a lot of, among those, troll comments and insults, which I don't care about. That doesn't matter to me much, because I know how Westerners behave. So that part didn't bother me too much. But what amazed me was the comments telling me, wow, this was amazing, great job. Dark Souls really is awful, and comments like that. And they said stuff like, finally someone tells us the truth. And just similar comments like that. And that's the feeling I got from that was, oh, this is amazing. I need to make more. This is the feeling I got, and the excitement I got from seeing all those positive comments made me want to continue doing YouTube. I was still planning to make videos. I had fun making videos, but now I knew this was at a time when I made the Sonic Adventure 2 video. I made the City Escape cover, which was just a little fun karaoke style cover that I did. Both of those were very successful, and people were very, very supportive. And that's when I realized, wow, okay, this is something I want to do full time. We're getting to that point now. We're getting to the point where I realize this is a way for me to spread awareness of Japanese culture and tell it to all the viewers so that they can adapt it into their everyday life and become better people. Westerners really do need Japanese culture. So I was very excited during this time. And that is how I decided, that's how I got from being, well, from my early days, from my childhood, to I became a content creator and realized that this is my future. But there are more things that happen. I'm sure a lot of you know the year of absence, which was 2017. That was a very dark year. I didn't upload any videos that whole year, as some of you know. There was a lot of things happened. There were some good things happening as well, which was very good because I needed that during that time. But I will go over that year on a different podcast. Anyway, yes, that will be a topic for a whole different episode, and it would be interesting. I think that would be something that you Sonics want to hear as well, since I haven't talked about it in detail before. So, look forward to that. I will have to, that kind of podcast I will have to take some time, and it will get very emotional. Most likely, a lot of things happened that year. So, look forward to that. I'm sure that's going to happen sometime in the future. But that is just overall some of the things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to go over my past history. So now that everybody knows who watches this podcast, I'm sure there's someone who's going to stumble upon this podcast and want to know more about me, Seph Sword 57. So I think this is a good idea. But what about the Topic Corner of Culture podcast? What is this about? Well, like I said in the beginning, I want to do this podcast because I made a few videos in the past where I go over, well, some of the stories, some experiences I've had, but those were never really fit for videos on the main channel, which is why a podcast is the perfect environment for those kinds of stories. Like, for example, I made a video about my past in karate and how I got banned from karate. That video is still up. That's something I might have to go over on the podcast again. That's a whole different, that's also a story for another time. I was banned, and I'm still banned from entering any kind of tournaments, karate tournaments here in Sweden. It's a lifetime ban. Now I'm sure you're very curious to why, but that will have to wait. It will have to wait for another time. But anyway, yes, I wanted to do stories like that, talk about my past, or maybe talk about some recent event that happens. There's a lot of things happening in Japan that I would like to go over. that might not make it into a video, because some topics aren't very huge. There might be some smaller things that would be interesting for a podcast. And while there are other stuff as well, like it would be great to have a guest on the podcast as well. That is something that I haven't really planned out that much, but I would like to have guests on here. Now, you will see when that will happen. I'm planning for this to be more of a solo podcast like this, but maybe it will happen sooner than later. We will have to see. Or maybe it will just be maybe a guest at one point, and then we'll just go back to normal. We will have to see. But right now, this has been the first episode of the Topic Corner of Culture podcast. And this was very enjoyable for me. It was nice to sit down and talk like this to you swordlings and just talk. It's very different from doing a live stream. Doing a live stream, you usually interact with the chat, and it's a different kind of feel from doing that, because you are answering questions, you are talking directly to the audience. While this is more of, I get to talk and you swordlings get to listen to me. So yes. Well, that will be it. Arigato for watching this video, and I will see you swordlings on the next episode of the Topic Corner of Culture podcast. Mata ne!